Good afternoon. This is Adam from the Golden Tiki, and this is Jason. So, welcome to Unfortunate for helping with today's talk about things. So let's start with Adam. He's going to talk a little bit about some of the cocktail stuff and Golden Tiki.
Yes. How's it going, everyone?
Hello.
Thanks for coming out. We are super excited to be here because I'm forced to be here, and then now because if I come here on my own, I'm like, oh, I'm not gonna spend money, but like now I'm here, I'm like, I have to. So we're at the Golden Tiki, so that's the tiki bar in Chinatown. It's been a tiki bar for 7 years, and it's a fun place, 24-hour tiki bar. There's food, there's animatronic birds, which actually just got fixed. They're in rehab for a while. They're kind of like the Disneyland birds, but they're a little foul. We call them our foul-mouthed fowls. They just got fixed. We have a lot of fun decor, so if you come in, you can kind of see what can be done with decor, because it's always changing as well. That's one thing I really like about our bar. It's a place kind of anywhere, anyone can go. You'll be there. There'll be like a president of a casino next to lady of the night. I don't know if they're together or whatever. Next to like a tiki head, next to cocktail nerds, next to bachelorette, next to like everyone. So bus boys, whatever. So it's like a good melting pot of a place. It's a little bit. At times it can be a little bit of a shit show, but there's magic in that shit show. There's a lot going on. You never know what band's gonna play. We always have DJs all the time. Sometimes while bands come on at 2 in the morning, like Swank Bastards. I don't know if you guys know them. They do surf rock and dirty jokes. So it's like anything can happen there, and it's super fun. We do some cocktails as well. We like rum. And we have like 200 plus rums. We have Dole Whip. We're not allowed to say Dole Whip anymore. There was like a cease and desist or something. Oh. So we have to call it Dole Soft Serve. Oh. That sounds way softer than whip, but whatever. We're not going for soft here. But and today I'm going to do a cocktail that we have on our menu called the Lemba Lemba Akulapu. It's a tribute to the Akulapu that was once in the Stardust. In the Akulapu. So yeah, I'll make a little cocktail, and we'll get to taste a little cocktail as well. We can maybe even taste some rum if we want to. The world's our oyster.
All right. Jason's going to give us just a little quick background about Don the Beachcomber and Trader Vic, just to give us a little context for how all this comes, not only from then to now, but where we are with it.
What's happening, everybody? Now let's do it the proper way. Aloha!
Aloha!
Much better. All right, so Tiki was born 90 years ago. 90 years. We're 10 years from the big 100-year anniversary.
Wow.
Started not in Hawaii or anywhere in the tropics, but in Hollywood, in a bottom corner of a little motel, where a gentleman by the name of Ernest Raymond Beaumont Gant, who most people know as Don the Beachcomber, set up shop. He rented a little store that went out of business. He rented the space. He had seating for about 25 people, and became an instant hit. And a gentleman named Vic Bergeron, most people know him as Trader Vic, had heard about this wonderful bar happening down in Hollywood, so he came down, spent a week sitting at the bar until Don threw him out, or Ernest at the time, and he had a bar already in San Francisco called Hinky Dinks, and it was a hunting lodge, and he saw how cool the tiki bar was, and so he went back. And he got his name because he would trade food and drinks for flotsam and jetsam to decorate the bar. So he changed his bar from Hinky Dinks to Trader Vic's, and thus the movement was born. And then the next big player would be a gentleman that's named Steve Crane. He was basically a con artist from Indianapolis, or Indiana. He went out to Hollywood and said, I'm this guy, and he wasn't any of those things, but he ended up marrying Lana Turner, and he ended up having an empire of restaurants. So he became a bit actor, and his tall tales led him to have a good life. So he opened a place called the Luau in Beverly Hills. And he's really one of the first ones that had amazing tiki mugs like these. And then the Sheratons called him and said, we need the version of the Luau in all our Sheratons around North America. So they opened a bar called Tiki Ports and all the Sheratons. And then Hilton said, oh, we need that too. So they called Trader Vic's. And so Trader Vic's opened up in all the Hiltons around the country. And with that kind of momentum, then everything was Tiki. So you could go to Tiki bowling alleys, Tiki nurseries, Tiki massage parlors, Tiki strip clubs, Tiki coffee houses, Tiki apartment buildings. Everything was Tiki. And so we're running through the 50s and 60s, and then boom, disco comes along and kills it all. Disco killed a lot of things, Tiki being one of them. So then they got rebirthed in the late 90s. There was 4 people kind of researching Tiki unbeknownst to each other, and that's kind of when it started. And so late 99, 98 is when Tiki got reborn. And now we're really in the heyday of a new Tiki bar somewhere opens up every month. Every month there's a new Tiki bar opening, and we're lucky because we have 2, I would say, full Tiki bars in this town. One kind of half Tiki bar, the Red Dwarf, and then if you've not been to Jammyland, it's not a Tiki bar at all, but it makes amazing rum cocktails. So plenty of places in this town. So there is the quick, brief 90-year history. But that, you know, what Ernest did before he turned his name into Don Beach was he had traveled the world twice as an 18-year-old and brought back all this stuff, a lot of it tropical, a lot of it nautical, flotsam and jetsam, and said, I'm gonna put all this stuff together and make a little bar. And everyone liked that because that was something new and fresh, and it became the it place in Hollywood to hang out. And so everyone then copied that. And so Tiki really is, I copy you, and you'll copy me, and I go, do that a little bit better, I'll do that again. And so that's where Tiki comes from, and now we're kind of in the renaissance right now. It's awesome. So that's a quick history.
All right. Tiki's very great. And what's fun about it is it's that island, relaxed, you know, and you can do as much or as little in the way of decor that you want to do. You know, it really just depends. Some people just have a shelf with a few Tiki mugs. Some people make theirs look like a full-on Tiki bar with bamboo walls, net, thatch, all of it. So that's a little bit about what we want to talk about today. There's a guy named Trader Brandon, and he did the Trader Sam's, which are Disney. They have one in Anaheim, one in Florida, and Orlando. And so if you're ever in one of those and you really want to see a good example of what Tiki looks like, that's a great place. If you don't get out much, then right here in our own backyard, we've got the Golden Tiki, and that's always evolving. That's half the fun of Tiki, is it always evolves. It doesn't have to stay static in any way, shape, or form. So one of the things he talked about was different themes, creating a backstory for your Tiki bar, your home Tiki. So it depends on whether you're doing out a small section that you're going to call a Tiki bar. Some people have redone a closet or done their whole house or just their kitchen. One of the major topics is shipwreck as a theme, so you can think about a crashed pirate ship and create a backstory for that and start putting the accoutrements thereof. A British colonial outpost, which Golden Tiki kind of is that resemblance. On the shipwreck, like Frankie's that's here in town, has that kind of vibe going for it. There's nautical, which is just, you know, your straight up your sea pieces, and we'll talk about some of the individuality of it in a moment. But and an explorer bar. So shipwreck, you can really decorate with things like old books, old candlesticks, wooden chests, fishing nets, cutlasses, and swords. Depends on where you want to go with it. Lots of bamboo. Lots of bamboo is good in any of the themes. Lots of net is good in any of the themes. Carved wooden Tiki figures is great for shipwreck. Like I said, think of yourself in like an island. So a lot of the growth, you know, if you're looking for a certain aesthetic, you can think Gilligan's Island. That's kind of loosely that kind of idea. The British colonial, has anybody seen Tales of the Gold Monkey, the 80s TV show? Because that had that outpost, Indiana Jones, you know, the aesthetic that goes to the Indiana Jones movies. That certainly fits your British colonial output. They have things like the directional signs, the wood signs that are long and have an arrow and say so many miles to this bar or to wherever point you want to write. And these are things you can find in antique stores like this. You can make your own. Some of the things you'd want, large faux plants, bamboo and net, you know, anything that's going to create a vibe that you like, and you get to personalize it. You know, that's the joy of coming to an antique store, is all that stuff's lying around for you to find and put in where you want, the way you want. Nautical is more your barrels and your ropes, your wooden mastheads for the ships, you know, and those come in places like this all the time. skulls, ship's wheel, swords, fish traps, lanterns, and you can use them as decor, you can hang them, you can put them on shelves, you've got lots of flexibility. And that's some of the fun of decorating, is there's no rules about it. Tiki's so loose and fun that you can spread it out the way you want. If you have old pirate flags, nautical flags, those work. Tankards, the big pirate glasses, the cups, you know, the long handles, those are always fun, and you can use them. Tiki mugs, of course, go in every tiki bar, because, you know, they're tiki mugs. The fun with the Explorer bar is almost like a point of landing while you're out on adventures, and you're bringing back vintage postcards, vintage pictures that you can use to create your story. You can put them up, and you can say, hey, this was Uncle Fred, he went off to this island, and you can have your own story around it. You know, or however you want to do it. It could be very random. There's a million vintage postcards in places like this, so you can find all sorts of things that'll be helpful. And the thing to go check out is when you go to the local tiki bars and you see what drinks they're making, you see what works for you. There's so much decor. When they were building Golden Tiki, and as it's evolved, Brandon used to come from over here, and he would buy a lot of things. So I have fun walking around and seeing the pieces he's bought and put in the bar. You know, it's just like a treasure trove. And then there's the other places to visit. You want to talk about Undertow a little bit?
Yeah. Stacy's gonna hand this out. All right, so I got a little printout, places to get ideas. I broke it down into 3 areas: local, 1-tank trip, and a short plane ride. So obviously local, we got Frankie's, Golden, Red Dwarf, and Sunset Park. If you've never been to Sunset Park to see the giant moai that used to sit outside the Tropicana, definitely go check it out. It's on the island in the lake.
It's a giant moai, and it's well worth seeing.
Yeah, and the ones with asterisks means there is magic in the bar. So Disney is kind of ground zero for that. You order specific drinks, shit happens around the bar. So you gotta know which drinks to order. Now that you got your birds fixed.
Yes.
I was gonna say, I've been there a couple times lately. I'm like, the birds didn't talk at all.
Right.
But outside of here, if you get into the LA Orange County, Tonga Hut North Hollywood is one of the oldest bars in the Hollywood area. Damon's is not a tiki bar, but it is a restaurant that has amazing vintage decor. Obviously, Trader Sam's at Disneyland, Strong Water in Anaheim, which is very much the nautical bar, pirate bar. They've got a giant skull water feature in the corner. False Idol in San Diego, I would go home and Google it. You've never seen so many glass fishing floats hanging from one ceiling in your life. That was their whole idea. You can't see any ceiling. The whole bar is probably 400 glass fishing floats. Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
The drinks are wonderful there.
Yeah. And then if you're going the other way out of LA, Tiki Co. and Sinking Ship in Bakersfield, it's the same place. One bar's up top, one's down below. Amazing to see. And then a new one just opened, Pirate One in Burbank called Broken Compass, which I have not been there yet, but I've heard good things. But if you get up to San Francisco, the Bay Area, it's like you would need a week and a half to hit all the tiki bars. But a couple that I highlighted, Zombie Village has a lot of good magic in it. Smuggler's Cove is ground zero for the greatest cocktails and rum selection in the world. The Tonga Room does not have good drinks. However, the Tonga Room is in the basement of an old hotel, and there's a pool in the middle of the bar, and there's a boat, and the boat comes out, and the band plays, and it rains around things. So you definitely want to see it, but be aware, the drinks are horrible. There was a moment in time where they had a really good mixologist leading the team, and the drinks were good, so you got the best of both worlds, and then they went back to, yeah, they're like Applebee's, you know. And then Last Rites is in San Francisco. It is definitely a crashed plane in an Indiana Jones movie. So they went for that whole aesthetic. And then Steven mentioned Undertow in Phoenix. If you've not been to Undertow, that's where magic really comes to life. They built, the original bar was actually underground, hence the name Undertow. And it was like you're going down the stairs under a ship, and there's portholes along the side. And during your 90-minute drinking journey, there's a whole scene going on in the portholes. You leave port, you're out in the open seas, night comes, then you get into a gun battle. And they change it throughout the years. They did an Antarctic expedition where you get stuck in an iceberg, and they got to blast the cannons to blow the iceberg up, and the lights all go out, and smoke fills in the bar. Pretty awesome. And then a hidden one in Phoenix, if you've never heard of it, it's called Captain's Cabin. It's only open 3 days a week, Tuesday, Friday, and Saturday. Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night. It's hidden. There's no sign. You just got to know where it is. And some of the best tiki drinks you'll ever have there. And then if you could get on a plane, I kind of broke down some of the best ones in the country. Holly Paley in Portland is another one that has great magic. The Foundation in Milwaukee is one of those that you're like, there's a great tiki bar in this house on the street with other houses. Yep, one of the best looking tiki bars in the country. And then Sunken Harbor Club in Brooklyn. My wife and I, who's in the back there, have been hunting tiki bars for 24 years and drank at them all over the world. And Sunken Harbor is the best drinks we have ever had. Halfway through her first drink, she goes, there's no booze in this because it's that well mixed. Halfway through her second drink, she goes, there's no booze in this. I go, boy, you've gotten a lot louder by the second drink. And then, so one that breaks the mold. So all tiki bars, since we're talking about the look, are typically inside. They're dark. Frankie's, Golden, same thing. The one that breaks the mold that you should definitely go to if you're in the area is in Kauai. It's called Mama Hooney's. It's completely outside. There's no walls, but you're sitting on the ocean in Kauai and the drinks are really, really good. And it's the rare time where it's not dark. You're like, this works. This very much works. Because a lot of the bars that are called tiki in Florida are not what we want, so to speak. Just because it has thatch doesn't mean it's a real tiki bar. And they're gonna sell you tiki drinks that are pretty much on the lines of Applebee's. They're definitely not golden. They're very much sweet and not balanced and just like rum and fruit juices. And then the granddaddy of them all, which is closed for the moment, but reopens in June, is the Mai Kai. So the Mai Kai has been going for, I think, 65 years now.
Yeah.
And it's a restaurant that seats about 500 and a bar that seats about 100. And then they have a full-on Polynesian show twice a night with the dinner, full tiki gardens. They had a big problem where the roof caved in and they thought they were going to close, and a company came in and said, we'll partner with you guys and fund so they're redoing the whole thing. And so it's going to be brand new, 65 years old in June. If you get to Fort Lauderdale, go see it. It is absolutely amazing. One of the best examples of what we're talking about, like the decor from start to finish. You can't beat it. It is the best place to see.
All right.
So there's your handy little list.
All right. And you know, the commonality of all these is the story each of these creates. And since we're local and are blessed to have Golden Tiki, you can go see that emotion. With Captain Faulkner, who created the backstory for that? Is that Brandon?
Yeah, it was Brandon.
Okay.
Brandon started, so like, we were talking about lore for tiki bars. Part of our lore is the journey of Captain William Tobias Faulkner and his journey to find the illustrious Golden Tiki. So his travels took him far and wide. He ended up on Flaming Skull Island. On the island, he met Cyclops, he met sirens, he met cannibals and angry locals, and a lot of those things are depicted on the walls. Like there's paintings on the walls of those things happening. And then there's actually, to the left of the bar is like a waterfall, and it's called Seaman Falls because it's where a lot of seamen died. Not what you think. Come on, guys.
Just wait until we talk about the bathroom.
Yeah, and it is.
Let's go ahead and hidden decor.
Not so hidden.
Hidden decor, yeah. There's a lot of phallic art there as well, but you know, tiki culture, of course, is a mix of everything. It relies heavily on Polynesia, but it is a mix of everything. But that being said, Polynesian culture and other cultures celebrate the fertility god. So that's where that comes into play. Fertility is a good thing. Life. So that's our story on the island. Captain William Tobias Faulkner, WTF, by the way. He ended up going insane. So a lot of one of the last paintings is him on the beach, left with nothing but boots and a dagger. And he has just no pants on and a crazy look on his face as his ship with all his crew members are leaving him. So he left there. But yeah, good. I was gonna say, yeah, there's a lot of like little stories and little characters that come and go. This is this guy was a first mate on Captain William Tobias Faulkner's ship. He is, his name is Charles Vestibule Sasquatch Esquire III. He is the missing link. He was a merchant marine and a Seabee, and I think he was a member of Pancho Villa's army for a while. I don't know. There's all things with him. But he has a ladies' man. He does have a tender profile, but I think it got clipped, right? He's a little too animal. But anyway, yeah, there's a lot of little characters. So at your own bar, you can obviously create your own lore, even though ours is 100% real. It's really happens. But so you can create your own.
And it's fun to explore it and see what's there. That'll help you tie in elements of how you want to do your own tiki bar. You know, as far as tying in things like your bamboo thatch, actual bamboo poles, netting. You know, you can cross that any way you want. And again, depends on the size, whether you're doing simply a bar in the corner or you're doing the bottom of the house or something. You can do a lot of things.
Absolutely. And I love all the expressions that it can take, you know. Like you mentioned a lot of them, but you know, there's even like people that lean in the creepy tiki realm. There's people that lean like full mid-century modern. There's like a lot of different ways you can go. And I always look at it as it's a fantasy land, so it's yours. You know, you can do really whatever you want. I know there's people that are amazingly passionate about it, and some people that I know, some of our carvers are very passionate, and they will say, this is tiki, this is not, this is tiki, this is not, and they'll yell at you about it. You don't necessarily have to worry about that, because it's yours. Yeah. You can do whatever you want with it. And I think that it is a good mix of new and old. Like you can have new elements in there, but then items that you want to have soul to it. You know, whether it has soul from being an old antique or whether it's like a piece of art that someone made, that carries soul and energy. And I think that's a big part of it as well.
Yeah, no doubt. Does anybody have any questions for either of these two?
I was going to add too, don't start at Party City. Yes, we all have our line where we're like, we want it more traditional, but let me tell you, I think a lot of people who get into tiki, like my wife and I did, I look back at our first bar, and on the bar was the shittiest company that makes mugs, Libby, and Malibu rum, which isn't really even rum. And I'm like, I look back, I'm like horrified though. We were like, that's where we started. But, you know, with anything you collect and get a love for, then you're like, oh, this is a much better mug than Libby, and Malibu's not rum? Okay, next. So you start to get better rum. So I think we all kind of start there. But we're going to tell you, don't start at Party City. Here's the only asterisk to that. Someone was giving grief about the new tiki torches that you could buy at like Home Depot or something because they don't look all that traditional. But we live in a very dry climate, so I don't put anything good outdoors. So those kind of things I'll definitely buy for the outside and let the sun and the dryness kill them. That's cool. I don't want anything good to be killed. So here you kind of get that leeway to like, I'll buy the cheap crap for outside. That's the note you don't get when you move here. Oh, this dryness will kill everything you own outside. There will be one day in the summer you go to pull your umbrella up on the patio and the rope just turns to dust. Like, all right, time for a new umbrella.
So I got a question. You know, everybody says, yeah, Tiki, Hawaii. So why is it that it's really from LA, Hollywood, but the feeling is Hawaiian?
Well, it was because of Ernest. So he traveled. So when Ernest got time to go to college, his parents had saved him money. And they gave him a choice. Like, what a weird thing for a parent to say to an 18-year-old. Here's your money. You can either go to college or travel the world. And he'd already traveled the world as a youngster. His grandfather was an importer-exporter, rum runner from the Caribbean and Jamaica back to Louisiana. So he was like, oh yeah, I'm going around the world. So with that little bit of money, he traveled the world twice. And I have a whole list of all the countries he had. And so he came back with all this stuff. And it was mostly stuff, even though there was a little bit of things that weren't Polynesian, mostly it was Polynesian stuff. And then the rum from the Caribbean. And so that's kind of where it got born. And a lot of people who don't know think it's a product of Hawaii or Polynesia, but nope, it's a product of right in the middle of Hollywood.
Wow.
There's probably a lady of the night sitting on the stoop right now where that first bar was. Going, I should probably get some sleep.
There's a guy named Sven Kirsten, and he wrote a lot of the books that are out there about the history of Tiki. He's gone out and researched it and found out everything he could, and has a number of books, 5, 6, 7, 8 of them, something like that. Anyway, he did a couple charts, which are awesome. One that breaks down kind of the eras of Tiki, and the other one, which he calls the Circle of Tiki. And it's a good guide to decor, especially with how Tiki has changed going into this era, where you see Geeky Tiki, which is a brand of this, things like Star Wars and what's the
Golden Girls.
Golden Girls. Yes, the Golden Girls Tiki now. Crazy. But this is a good breakdown chart if you're trying to figure out how much or how little of things to put in. So we'll pass these around. Can you just send these down here?
And then let me show the books while we're talking about that, because that works out perfectly.
Yeah, please.
So here's some of the books you can buy. Some are out of print and worth a lot of money, but I wanted to show you, if you really want to decorate, these are the books you should look for. This is one of Sven's. This is The Art of Tiki. This was a big art show that was in LA, and it was one person's whole collection, and so they took time. This is basically the catalog from the art show. Pretty fancy catalog. So that's a great book to pick up. That one's not too expensive. This is his probably biggest book in terms of size, Tiki Pop. You can pick this up for like 20 bucks on eBay, Amazon. It's not out of print as of yet, so you can get it pretty decently. And then on the cocktail side, so one of the guys who was researching Tiki back in the 90s was a guy named Jeff Berry, otherwise known as Beach Bum Berry. And he's the one that figured out all the cocktails. So the cocktails that they serve at Golden and at Frankie's and most tiki bars, a lot of them were lost to time until Jeff Berry found the little black book from a bartender. And back in the day, they would not let you know what was in their drinks. So the bartenders would know, okay, we have an ounce of this bottle, but there'd be no label on the bottle for this drink, and then a dash of this bottle. And so all the recipes are written that way. A dash of number 7, a pour of number 1. And so he had to figure all those things out, so he brought it back. So he's written a ton of books, but this one's one of the best, Potions of the Caribbean. It's about the rum, about how the rum made it from the Caribbean to the United States and all the drinks. So good recipes, good history. Yeah. This is an older book that even Steve didn't know. Hula Dancers and Tiki Gods. This was one of the early, you're gonna collect Tiki and Hawaiiana books, and it goes into a lot of the things that we would decorate with. The Hawaiian bust, the Tiki mugs, and it'll lean a little bit heavier on Hawaiiana stuff as opposed to just Tiki, so that's another good book. And then if you like the surf side of things, Pop Surf Culture is great. So if you want to decorate with surfboards and old surf posters and music like that, this is a great book for that. And then Martin Cate, who owns Smuggler's Cove, wrote a cocktail book, recipes and stuff, but throughout the recipes are the history of Tiki. So another gorgeous book, and this is one of those books you can pick up for like 15 bucks online. Real cheap, but really great book. So you're looking for Smuggler's Cove, Exotic Cocktails, Rum, and the Cult of Tiki. And then totally unrelated, but a lot of people, as we talk about mid-century modern, a book called Pad. This is kind of how to decorate your vintage place. Tiki worked its way into there, but most of us have mid-century modern lighting in our bar that isn't necessarily Tiki, but definitely paints the aesthetic. So get a lot of good ideas from there. And then this was the first book Sven wrote, the Book of Tiki. This is the Bible. So this is where all this kind of started. And it's just a great pictorial history of everything pre-Tiki all the way through Tiki, Don the Beachcomber. Speaking of Don, do not buy this book. So I own the business ledgers of Don the Beachcomber when they moved from Hollywood to expand to Chicago. And so his wife at the time, named Cora, she took over the business, bought Ernest / Don out of his own business, took over the business, gave half the business to the mob in Chicago, and built an amazing business with thanks to the mob. So I buy this book because I give presentations on the history of Don the Beachcomber with the Chicago mob. So I thought maybe I'll get some more information on this book. According to this book, he wasn't even married to Cora. She's not even in the book. I'm like, how is his wife, who basically stole the business from him, not in this book? So this is a terrible book full of nothing but bullshit. Don't buy those books. So there's your book lessons.
All right. And unless there's further questions, I think Adam's going to make some cocktails so you guys can try samples. Jeremy?
I did have one question actually. The word Tiki itself, does it reference the entire culture? Is it specifically talking about the certain types of implements that are utilized in the bars? Where does the word itself come from?
So Tiki translates to man, actually, and so the Polynesian gods are all Tikis, no matter if you're Hawaiian or Easter Island or Fiji, whatever, because they all have different carvings. So those are their deities to their gods. And so the funny thing was, in the first Tiki bar down the Beachcomber, when you look at the pictures, 0 Tikis. Had everything else. Had the fishnets, the floats, all the bamboo, all of it, but no Tikis. Tikis didn't show up until they opened up Chicago. And so I don't know where it became known as the Tiki bar, because Ernest didn't call it a Tiki bar.
Maybe around the Kon-Tiki raft time?
Could be the Kon-Tiki raft time, but that's where it became the catch-all word. So
it's like the totem kind of basically, or?
Yeah, basically.
All right.
Yeah. Oh, and before we talk cocktails real quick, one easy way to decorate is you buy album frames And all the, so when Hawaii was becoming a state, there was so much music that came out of Hawaii. There were so many great albums with just the art. Some of the albums are good to listen to, some are trash. But you find these at every thrift store, every garage sale, and if you go to an old person's house, they had Hawaiian records. So this becomes an easy, quick way to decorate. We have a whole room that we have a little library in, and it's all albums like this hung up. So easy, quick way to decorate your tiki space. And now let's drink Boost.
Hey.
Thank you. Well, awesome. So we are going to make a cocktail, and actually, would you be able to pour some samples? So, yeah, well, Lauren will pass them out while we make these. We're going to make a version of a cocktail that we do at the Golden Tiki, the Lemba Lemba Aku Lapu. It's based on a Don the Beachcomber drink. The original one was Chief Lapu, and then when it went to the Aku Aku room, then it was called Aku Lapu. But Chief Lapu was a Filipino tribesman chief, and he's actually the man that killed Magellan. So it's like honoring anti-colonialism, which is ironic because with the rum history and everything. But yeah, because Don the Beachcomber, a lot of his bartenders were all from the Philippines. So there's like that little influence there. So this cocktail, you know, Don the Beachcomber, I could say, you know, he was in Southern California. That's where everything was created, like we mentioned. So what was in Southern California then? A lot of citrus. Not as many condos, but now there's a lot of condos. But there was a lot of citrus, so that's why a lot of his drinks, you know, pineapple exists in some of his drinks, but he had a lot more tart drinks, tart with a little bit more spirit to them. And so that's kind of how I sort of, if you're going to draw like a broad stroke between Trader Vic and Don the Beachcomber, I'd say Don the Beachcombers are a little bit more citrus. And this one is as well. This one has grapefruit in it, you know, so grapefruit has that tartness, almost like a little tannic bite to it. And it has a lot of exotic spice and a lot of rum. But let's kick it off. So this one's we're gonna do a little bit of lime juice. We're gonna do 3/4 of an ounce. And then we have some white grapefruit. Always shake the bottle. If you're at Golden Tiki, you'll see people shake them in various ways. I think it's under 21 crowd, so I don't want to get on crass the way we shake them. But we're very pelvic at that bar, you know. You gotta, it puts more life in me. Right there.
Golden Tiki, we're pelvic.
And then we'll do, so in this one I have a lime juice, grapefruit, so obviously it's gonna be pretty tart. To add a little bit of roundness, I have some pineapple juice. Also brings some acidity, but it also, when you shake it up, see how it gets frothy? That it kind of expands all the flavor molecules as well. So pineapple doesn't necessarily have to make it sweet. So I also have a little bit of velvet falernum. Does anyone know what velvet falernum is?
Yummy.
What?
Perfect answer.
What?
Falernum, fun to say. Even if you're sober, it's fun to say. Falernum is a rum-based liqueur from Barbados. There's a lot of like lime zest to it, allspice, ginger. It can be, there's a few different recipes that you can use, but it's tiki ketchup. It's in a lot of tiki cocktails.
Do you guys make yours in house?
We partnered with Dress to Drink. They're like local pastry chefs that started like a syrup and garnish company. So yeah, we partnered with them, and so we developed one. Because our kitchen in the Golden Tiki is very small. Like it's a closet, so it's hard to actually do 24-hour food and make all the syrups we need to make. So all the recipes I make them, figure out the recipe, and then I work with them to see if they can replicate them. So speaking of syrup, here's some Demerara syrup. If you're making this at home, you can use sugar in the raw, turbinado, Demerara sugar. It's essentially just a little bit richer than like a white simple syrup. All right, so we have that. So one thing that differentiates tiki drinks from Caribbean drinks, from from the pina coladas and things like that, is a spice element. That's kind of like one thing that you can draw a line and say, yeah, tiki drinks will have a little bit more of a spice element to them. So we already have the velvet falernum. I'm also going to throw in some of these tiki bitters here. We're going to do a few drops in there. And you notice, so if you're in the bar, you'll notice you should start with your juice first. At home, it doesn't really matter. But in the bar, a million things can happen. I can get interrupted 5 times in the middle of making a drink. It can get spilled over, or like a lot of things can happen, or the person might change their mind. And then at that point, if I've already mixed the booze in there, I have to waste it or I drink it. Which is cool, but they frown on that because I have to count money and stuff like that. So it doesn't work. So next we're going to do some Dominican rum. This is their agricole. So Dominican Republic shares a border with Haiti. So there's a little of that cross-cultural rum making practices. So they do a agricole there. An agricole is essentially, so there's a lot of ways to make rum, but the 2 main ingredients you would have would either be molasses, byproduct of sugar production, or you just take the cane and just press it and then ferment the juice. So those are kind of the 2 main differences. And you could say kind of French style rums will do the cane juice more. And then English and Spanish do the molasses. So that's kind of like a different thing. So that's why this being Dominican rum, they're still doing the French style. So that's why the difference. And the difference in flavor, if you've had, I know you guys have had agricole versus Spanish rum versus English rum. Flavor wise, you think of like sugarcane is a grass. So that flavor comes through a little bit more. So it's a little more grassy. Sometimes it can go herbal. Like in this agricole, it goes almost like a lemongrass kind of flavor. Sometimes it can get really funky, and then if you throw it in a barrel, it can get like all these tertiary notes, like almost like petrol. It sounds weird, but it's kind of good. It's kind of gross and good, like a lot of things in life. But I will do their spiced rum. This is the Lemba spice. This is delicious. This is made molasses based, and they do all natural flavorings. And so this is a spice rum you can actually get behind. It's not just adjunct flavors and unnatural crap thrown in there. Like this is a really good one. Only thing, if you do find this one, taste it first, because it's almost sometimes too much spice for someone's palate. Like if you have this in Coke, for everyone it might be too much. So you could do like 1 ounce of this and 1 ounce of white rum, and you'd be good to go. And Lemba is great. These guys, like I said, they're made in Dominican, but the owners are here locally.
You can buy these in the liquor stores out here?
Yes, they're at, I know a lot of Lee's have these, and I haven't been to Total Wine in a little while. I think they have them as well. But yeah, and they're good guys. They come into the Golden Tiki all the time. They drink a lot. It's good.
Yeah.
So next, the original cocktail would call for a 151 Demerara, which it's kicking in. 151 is obviously higher proof. So today, and in yours, I didn't want to kill you during the middle of the day, so I didn't do that. Sorry, I don't let you guys down. You guys are seasoned veterans. But this one is made by Hamilton. Ed Hamilton's, very influential in the rum world. He's a great guy. We have one of his shrunken heads at Golden Tiki. I didn't mention that too. That's part of our Decor's thing that we do to honor people. We have shrunken heads like Charles here. But we have Ed's head is in the bar. And also his rum wasn't available in our market for like years, and we had to kind of fight to get it. And basically I had to like ask him, like, can I sell your rum? How do we do this? How do we make this happen? Because his rum is made with passion and no bullshit. Because in the rum world, rum's kind of the wild, wild west of spirits. Like because you think of how many countries make it, how many different jurisdictions. Everyone has different rules, and the main rule is money. What's going to sell? A lot of times things that are made cheaply and with fake flavor and extra sugar poured in, that's going to sell. So that kind of wins out. But Ed's fighting against that. He all his flavor comes from the fermentation process, the distillation process, and then the magic in the barrel. So he's down for that. But so he doesn't stand for bullshit, and in the Vegas market of liquor, there could be a little bit of bullshit. So anyway, we fought through the bullshit, and we have his rum now. So it's going in this drink.
And that might not seem like a big deal, but it truly is, because he had a hard time getting his rum in the state.
Oh, wow.
Absolutely.
What's that called again?
Hamilton.
Hamilton, yeah.
Hamilton.
And he makes Demerara style. He imports some Martinique stuff too. He has his new like Navy blend, which is a blend of different islands. He has with Jeff Beachbumberry, the author of Oceans of the Caribbean. He has a zombie blend, so you could have all the rums that would be in the zombie. They have it together for you.
A zombie. That's a drinker one.
Yes, yes.
No, you don't.
All right, so we have all the stuff in the glass or in the tin. Now we're gonna shake it. So we're gonna do a little whip shake. So that's just grabbing a little bit of this ice, a really small amount. We're not really diluting it so much as we just want to aerate it and incorporate the flavors. Let's do it.
I love the cup. The rose gold.
Oh no, I don't do that. Especially with all this valuable stuff here.
Oh, Adam's buying it all.
Yeah.
Try.
Yeah. Flair is fun to watch, kind of, but then as long as you can get your drink. Yeah. But they don't really focus on the drink that much. So that's
That's
another.
23 minutes ago. Hang on, I'm still flipping.
Exactly.
Does it really make a difference, like how many shakes, for the drink, or is that just effect, or?
So yeah, it does. So in this case, like I said, I'm not really diluting it, so you can hear there was a little bit of noise in the beginning, and then it's just gone.
It melts the ice?
It melts the ice, and at that point, I'm just aerating it. So you're like getting all those ingredients together and waking them up and getting air in there. So how it'll develop on the palate, it'll be airy and open and more alive, and it makes a big difference too. There's a guy, Kasamoto Oyedi, Japanese guy, who wrote a book on just shaking and stirring. And supposedly, someone's gonna call me. Yes, I'm just playing. Supposedly they did tests on shaking a cocktail with intent, like if you're angry or not. If you shake it, they've tested the pH balance, and I don't know, I wasn't there. It sounds weird, but it does make sense, because I know you've probably gone to whatever casino and you get like a really bad drink from the bartender who's like very grumpy or whatever. So I think the bitterness of his life comes through. I don't know, whatever happens. But so this cocktail, I think, is ready to go. So what I'm gonna do is just pour it directly into this little pygmy. Look at that. And then we're going to douse it with as much of this crushed ice as we can, because we're gonna get a lot of it in here. That way the cocktail will immediately dilute, because it hasn't diluted very much yet. But then once it reaches that chill point, it's gonna be more shelf stable. It's gonna have more lasting power. Because you'll notice, like if you put crushed ice in a glass, you can see the outside gets all formed, and then there's a point where it just doesn't dilute because it's super cold. All right, so we're gonna garnish this one. We have a little dehydrated pineapple here. Let's throw that in there, and let's throw some flowers, some edible flowers, because the original cocktail is named after a chief, a king. So we're gonna give him a little flower crown, and then where's my straws? Well, I guess we just have to drink it like this. So it's more of a challenge. But yeah, here's the Akulapu.
Who gets to drink that?
Now, the man.
Cheers. Thank you.
I have a straw somewhere else. I'll get you.
That's cool.
And Lauren, this is Lauren, by the way. She works with Golden Tiki. She's our lovely assistant. But she messed up on the straw. I'm gonna blame her.
I think we've got coffee straws.
For tiny sips.
Just put your feet in.
And I know we're here to buy stuff, but I have, if you guys want to grab some stickers, you can. And then I have a couple giveaways, and I have some swizzles if you guys want to grab some. And then, so let's think. Does anyone remember how long Golden Tiki's been a tiki bar?
7 years.
Boom. Oh wait, did you already get this one the other day?
Did I get that one? No.
All right, you get a Kraken. And this is another piece of our decor right here. Going into the pirate room, there's a big, you walk into the mouth of a Kraken. And there's like a little,
That's awesome.
That room's awesome.
you know, when you walk in, he growls at you and stuff. So this is, of course, his name is Phil. Phil McCracken, of course.
Yeah.
You get him a Phil McCracken glass.
Yay.
All right, and is there a question,
Yay.
trivia question you'd like to ask? You want them to remember?
Ask one of the
Yeah.
what was Trader Vic's called before it was Trader Vic's?
Dinky Dinky?
What?
Close enough. Hinky Dinks.
And this is
Hinky Dinky will work.
and that's our cooler glass that has Alan Bud, the foul mouth foul.
What year though? That would be good to know.
Well, you know, Hinky Dinks was very open when Ernest opened Don's Beachcomber. So it was probably a year before, and then he changed it into all things Tiki.
Isn't that hitting 100, you said?
I'm sorry?
Hitting 100 years, right?
90 years.
90 years.
1933. The cool thing about Ed Hamilton, too, is he came out with whatever his first rums were, but then he listened to all the tiki bartenders around the world, and they're like, we need a white rum that's good in a daiquiri. We need a pimento dram that doesn't taste like chemicals. And so he goes, all right, cool, I'll make it. It's like the one company that's like, sure, we can make that. Just give me a little bit of moment and time, and I'll be back with stuff, and then he'll make special rums just for bars, which you can still buy on the shelf, but you know, bars will be like, I need this specifically, and then you can buy like the false idol version of this rum. So for those who like rum and want to collect, it's cool. It's very cool.
And yeah, it's unofficial, but yeah, we're working on Golden Tiki.
There you go.
It hasn't happened yet, so but I don't want to say.
You guys have come a long way in the 7 years. It's amazing.
Where does one go to get shrunken heads?
Golden Tiki.
You have to go. You have to go like 7 miles west as the crow flies. You have to go find the Magic Mountain, and I think there's like an invisible swordsman involved. Yeah.
Oh, okay, we're mixing and matching.
Yeah.
They do
No,
shows. They do
We have-
know Princess Bride.
there's an artist named Terry Barr who does that.
Terry Barr.
Yeah, he used to work for the Smithsonian. Now I don't know if it's a bunker or a compound, but he's in Montana and he's retired, walled off, but luckily he likes us and he still does, he does it for us.
So there isn't like some instruction manual and you just go to your local morgue and
Yeah. That's a good idea.
It is Vegas. I'm sure you can find a body in many places.
out in the desert.
And you forgot the most important part of what's good about Golden and Frankie's. You can gamble.
Yes,
You know,
Hey.
only 2 tiki bars in the world where you can
Gambling
gamble.
alcohol.
Legally. Legally, I might add. Sure you can gamble in any tiki bar, but
Right.
Guys, I just want to say thank you again to Adam and Jason for coming down and helping with all of this. Hope you guys enjoyed the cocktails. Thank you for making those. Thank you for all of your information.
oh, heck yeah.